Welcome back to this week's episode of Unlocked, and boy, do I have a special, interesting podcast or two in store for you, because I have on Robert.
How's it going?
He's so nervous.
Speaking of special and interesting, there's a small hobbit in the background.
Grayson, move.
Move on. Grayson?
He's Bama bound. What do you expect?
Yeah.
Preview to how he's going to be in class.
First off, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
You're so nervous right now.
I'm not.
Yes,
really
you
not.
are. Why are you nervous?
I'm really not. I've got an Alabama guy hanging out behind me that I can't see, so it makes me a little bit on edge. They're freaking shady.
Why are you so against Bama? Let's tell the world.
Because I'd bleed orange and blue from my days at Auburn back in the day.
So you played football at Auburn.
I did.
You played football at Auburn, then played for the Falcons, and that's where his infamous photo on Google comes from. How do you feel about that photo?
I feel like I was preparing to play in the NFL and had to pack on as much weight as humanly possible to try to block these 300 plus pound guys that had bad intentions.
Oh boy.
Yeah, for sure.
Grayson, we do not need your commentary. So, first off, can we talk about that photo and when that came out?
Yeah, that came out back in...
I guess we have to backtrack though. Well, because that photo had already came out when you played for the Falcons.
Yeah, that was my rookie photo.
Yeah, that was your rookie photo. And then it had a massive resurface in 2020?
2023.
And so when you and I started dating, I just want to preface this by saying we have not spoken about our relationship or posted anything.
No.
And, well, now we're breaking the ice.
Yeah, a year and a half later.
Yeah, a year and a half later. So when we started dating, do you want to tell everyone how you slid into my DMs?
Oh, is that what we're going with? That's the stance and position we're taking? No, you got that one backwards.
So please tell the world how this began.
I was just on Instagram and all of a sudden this message came through and I looked at it and it was from Savannah Chrisley and I was like, that name sounds really familiar. So all the message said was like, hey, I'll be praying for you.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Because you had just, you had gone viral.
Yeah.
So I was just being a kind person. And Pamela called me and was like, oh my gosh, you'll never believe this. Because Pamela is from
Albany,
Georgia, which is
an hour from
Thomasville where Robert lives. So so I just sent him a message and was like, I'm praying for you.
Yeah, and I think all I said was thanks.
Oh, you're really going to try to act cool? Don't even.
I'm pretty sure that was about the gist of it. We can go back and look, but I think I just said thanks.
You told me you said.
Yeah.
What?
No, Savannah said you're too hot to die.
I said that at some point. I did say that at some point in our messages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it went hey, if you're ever in Nashville, let me know. And I had a guys trip planned for the Auburn Vanderbilt game, which was in November.
So to set the timeline, this was August of 2023.
Yes.
Okay. So we're messaging back and forth. You said you had a trip to Nashville.
You said, let me know if you're ever in Nashville. And I said, I've got a guys trip planned in November when Auburn played Vanderbilt. And you said, November seems a little far off.
Yeah, because let's face it, this is August, September, October, 3 months.
Yeah.
That's not very,
Savannah doesn't have very long relationships.
Grayson, enough.
This is a new one for us.
Sit down in that chair and hush, or it's going to go on forever. Okay, so August.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, that's too far away.
Yeah. So then you had made a comment about having a extra ticket, which later discovered you did not have.
No, then you said, you actually said, well, let me know when I can come to Nashville and take you to dinner.
Yeah.
That's what you said.
Okay.
Exactly.
We'll go with that.
And then I was like, oh, probably not a good idea, because I was also talking to other people. And like, let's face it, y'all, like, until like you're in it, you're not like really in it, you know? So I was like, I can't mess up what I got going here. So
Well, you got a lot going here, huh?
So I said, you know, I'm actually taking Grayson. This was on like a Monday,
Probably on a Monday.
Like on a Monday. I was like, I'm taking Grayson to the Morgan Wallen concert in Boston. Like, feel free to meet me there. Not thinking that like you were actually going to say yes. And you were like, all right, done. And I was like, oh God, I've told him I have this ticket. I did not have a ticket, y'all. I had to go find another pit ticket for the Morgan Wallen concert at Fenway Park.
Well, and I've worked with a guy up in Boston for like 7 years.
Yes.
So I was like, well,
Josh,
it makes it easy for me to, you know, jump up to Boston. I can work all day, and then we can go to the concert that night and just make like a little, you know, deal out of it. And then Josh ended up tagging along with us, and
because y'all did your like, and I think that's what was so like, we met there. That was also what was attractive too, was your work ethic. And it was like, all right, well, I'm gonna go get work done. I got stuff to do with Josh. We'll go to the concert later. But with it, the whole thing was absolutely insane when we got there. First off, Grayson, do you remember that Uber ride? Grayson, do you remember that Uber ride? That Uber ride was awful. He took us the scenic route. I was like, I've got to get there. I have to like finish getting ready. That Uber ride was just terrible. But anyways, we get to the hotel, and please tell them what happened at the hotel.
it was just kind of one of those.
All my friends are still convinced that like he paid off the lady at the front desk.
I will swear on everything that did not happen. You text me and you said like, hey, we're about to be at the hotel. And I was like, okay, great. And I'd already checked in because I was working that whole day. And I was on the 17th floor. And I said, okay, great. I said, and you said, hey, just got checked in. I said, awesome. What floor are you on? And you said, 17. What about you? And I was like, 17. and then you said, I said, well, what room number are you? And you were like, 1701. What about you? And I'm like, 1703. Like
Yes.
we literally, like you got off the elevator and you were like first room on the left.
Yep.
And I was second room on the right.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is just insane to begin with.
It was absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't even, the whole thing was crazy. Then I have like a knock on my door. Champagne was dropped off at my door. I was like, that's really sweet.
That was paid for, by the way. The other rest of it was not.
That was paid for. The other wasn't. Okay. And then I got ready and I came to your room. I remember being so nervous. And like, you're going to like knock on someone's hotel room. Like, first off, what was I even thinking? He could have been like a freaking serial killer for all I know.
Well, you had other options clearly that you were working at that time. So I guess you were like, well, I'll take my shot.
Yeah, I guess, I'll take my shot. And I got to the hotel room. Do you remember?
Oh, I remember.
What?
Yeah, I remember. The thing I remember the most is like you came in and it's just a basic hotel room. And so I didn't know where to sit.
There was a desk.
There was a desk, but the desk was like a 6-inch desk at the bottom of the TV.
Yeah.
And so you sit down and
At
again,
the bed, I sit down on the end of the bed.
yeah. And I'm like, I'm just going to sit my big tail on this little small, granite wall / desk and hope that it doesn't break because I don't know you at all. And I remember that being really awkward. And then I remember you like going over to the window and this
It was
like
all glass window.
looking outside at Boston. And
What was I wearing?
you were wearing a denim outfit. It was all denim, and you just like leaned up against the window, which I later discovered that you did this intentionally to like be like the Dumb and Dumber movie where you're putting the vibes out. and I'm like, this should be it's going to be a pretty interesting night, to say the least.
Well, then what was even crazier, we were both absolute psychopaths because we're sitting there talking. Who else? Josh was there.
And Shoemaker.
And we're sitting there in the room talking. You had a trip to LA for work. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to LA too. I have to film The Masked Singer.
Yeah.
And you were like, what dates? And you were supposed to go a week before me. And you looked at me and you were like, but I mean, I could probably go the week after.
Yeah.
And you changed your trip.
Well, I texted all the people that I was meeting with and I was like, hey, is it okay if we meet the following week? And they were like, yeah, we can make that work. So I was like, okay, well, let's push it.
Yeah. So you changed your trip after we had spent 10 minutes together.
Something like that.
And then we proceeded to go to the concert. But what was absolutely insane was we get in the car to go to the concert. And I don't know why, but we get in the very back. And like immediately we were holding hands.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Yeah.
And then we go to the concert. We were afraid of photos coming out. So we were not.
We kept our social distancing.
We kept our social distancing until we didn't. And then someone got a picture of us. Like how at Fenway Park you recognize, I don't know. It may have been the bright neon blue shirt you were wearing.
Could have been.
Maybe.
Or it could have been because you're Savannah Chrisley and we couldn't go 5 feet without somebody wanting to take a photo. And I was just the innocent bystander that wasn't camera equipped yet for photos.
Yeah, not yet, but now.
I know how to turn the flash on. I know how to do all the things to
all
make
the
it right.
things.
It's time for a New Year's resolution you'll actually want to keep. Saying goodbye to uncomfortable shapewear for good. Let's be real. Life's too short to feel squeezed and squished and all the bad things. Luckily, you don't have to. Today's episode is brought to you by Honey Love, the brand that's completely reimagined shapewear. Honey Love uses targeted compression to sculpt and smooth where you want it and ease off where you don't. That means that it's super effective and comfortable to wear all day long. It's shapewear that works with your body and not against it. The difference? Well, you'll feel it and see it immediately. Plus, flexible boning in the side seams prevents it from rolling down or up, so you'll never have to sneakily adjust in public again. And even after a night of dancing, acting crazy, whatever you want to do, I'm telling you guys now, Honey Love's best-selling Superpower Short is the go-to. Their targeted compression technology distinguishes between areas where you want more support and areas you need less compression. And their Signature X targets and sculpts your midsection without squeezing your natural curves. It's designed, like I said, to work with your body and not against it. And did I mention the Superpower Short is also a booty lifter? Boost bands on the back of the thigh give your bottom amazing shape. Here's the best part. For a limited time, you can get Honey Love on sale. Save 20% off your entire order with our exclusive link, honeylove.com/unlocked. Support our show and start your year off right by checking them out at honeylove.com/unlocked. Treat yourself to the most comfortable shapewear on earth and save 20% off site-wide at honeylove.com/unlocked. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off. honeylove.com/unlocked. And after you purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please, please, please support our show and tell them that we sent you. Start the new year off with confidence thanks to Honey Love.
I will say this, like while we were at Fenway, Grayson was there, obviously, your brother, and I remember pulling him off to the side because like I think it's, you know, an easy sale one-on-one when you're just like talking with somebody, but you want to hear like the things about this person from somebody that actually knows them, because I'm an hour, 2 hours into this thing.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget, like, I was like, all right, Grayson, like, what's the scoop? And like, he sold you better than anybody ever could. He's like, she's the hardest working person I know. She's like my best friend, like all the things. And Grayson talking about you that night, like really elevated you to a different level in my mind because of the way that he talked about you.
That is so sweet.
Yeah.
None of it.
Oh my gosh. Stop. But that is so true. People don't really talk. Like, it's so easy. I like to say you can put your best foot forward for 6 months to a year. And you can control what someone sees. But it's the people around you when you're not there, what they're going to say. When they don't have to worry about, oh, is she going to hear me X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And so at that concert, it was so funny because now, like, thinking back at it, we like kept our distance, like I said, until we didn't. And then we were standing in line to get a drink. And I think that's where you kissed me for the first time. It
might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's where I got you like that little plaque that says first date.
Yep.
And I put the
Fenway Park.
I put the pinpoint at the exact coordinates of where that happened.
Yeah.
And then my favorite part of the entire story, well, you carried me all the way back to the hotel.
Yeah, you had worn some pretty high heels.
No, it was my boots. It was my
Okay.
black, like, cowboy boots that had the heel on them. And my feet, like, I had the worst blisters. You carried me the whole way back.
About 2 miles.
Literally 2 miles. And then we get back to the hotel. We're all eating, hanging out. And then we had a blast that night.
Yeah.
You know where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
And then Robert looks at me and goes, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I think I love you. And I look at him and I was like, my exact words were, and pardon my French, shut the F up.
Probably appropriate response at that moment.
Probably the best response at that moment I could have possibly come up with. And let's dive into that.
Yeah. I don't really know how to dive into that besides it was just on my heart in that moment. And yeah, I definitely said it.
Do you believe in like love at first sight?
I do. Yeah.
In what way?
I do. I just think that it's real. I think that, you know, God has a plan for everything and he brings people into your life. And, you know, he brought you into my life. And for whatever reason that came out of my mouth after the Morgan Wallen concert and, you know, surprised you didn't run. Probably for starters, because that's the first time that I have ever done that in all my years of being on this earth.
Being on this earth.
So yeah.
I think it's just crazy because we immediately were like joking around with each other, laughing. It wasn't this. The whole feeling was totally different than anything I've ever experienced. And then we ended up going home, and then that Tuesday, I think that's really where everything kind of shifted.
Yeah.
Was that Tuesday. You had meetings a few weeks later, but you moved them to do it that Tuesday so you could come back to Nashville. And you came, you did your stuff, and then you know that I was going to church on Tuesday nights.
Yeah.
So you were like, I want to go with you. And you went to church with me and explained that night.
Yeah. I mean, that was like kind of probably a deep connection from that night, because it's one thing like going out and having a good time and having fun, but like, you know, on the day-to-day basis and just life as a whole, like I really believe you have to prioritize God first. And so, you know, being in church that Tuesday night was really special. It was
cried.
Yeah, the message was incredible. The music, obviously, being in Nashville is probably second to none with the music, and it just felt right. And so I went back with a full cup or a full heart. And
well, when I took you to the airport, you looked at me and you said, I just want to let you know that I'm not seeing anyone else.
Yeah, I told you I was committed to you.
Yeah, that was your exact words.
Yeah.
You were like, I just want to let you know I'm committed to you. I don't expect the same from you.
Which clearly that was a good statement on my half to not set myself up based on
Okay. First off, if you would have told anyone else on day one, I think I love you, they would have ran.
I'm just saying you can justify it how you want to, but clearly
Let's face it, neither of us.
I knew what I was doing when I said I'm gonna be committed to you, but pretty sure this isn't gonna work because there's no telling, what else is out there.
No, I think neither of us were expecting things to take off the way that they did.
Yeah, no.
Or to come into each other's lives the way that we did. And that night when you looked at me and said, I'm committed to you, I don't expect the same from you, just know that I want to give this a run, basically.
Yeah.
And that, I was shocked because I have never really dealt with someone who is so maybe, I don't want to say direct because you're really not direct. In that situation you were.
Up front.
But just someone who was able to just speak from their heart and say what they were feeling with no regrets and just lay it all out there. I was kind of taken back by it. And then what? So we started dating August 18th.
Yep.
And the one thing I love to tell is Robert's birthday is August 3rd.
August 4th. We can probably edit that out or leave it in for comedic relief. It's not a big deal.
No, August 4th. Robert's birthday is August 4th. Mine's 7 days later, August 11th. And then we met 7 days later, August 18th.
Yeah, it doesn't work out with the 777 if mine's the 3rd.
Okay. It was a mishap.
Okay.
What is it? Oh, yeah, that's for yours. Yes, yours is 7 days. It's in my calendar because it's all one straight line. Yeah.
Can you add a 17 or 18 and 7?
18 and 7.
25th. Yeah.
Look at you.
Yeah.
I saw that math episode. You've made some improvements.
Yeah, it's a lot of improvements. So our birthdays, like just the month of August is like a great month.
Yeah.
Now going forward. But we truly enjoyed our time together. And then also one thing to point out is our age difference. Obviously.
Yeah, a little bit. I'm a little more advanced.
A little more advanced. Is that what you like to call it?
Yeah, we can go with that.
12 years is our age difference.
Yep.
Almost exactly. So 12-year age difference. Is that a problem for you?
Not for me at all. I'm good.
Why do you say it that way?
I'm the older one, so yeah. It doesn't bother me saying that my girlfriend's 27 years old at all.
No, that's you kind of get like the fist bump over that one.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. All my best friends are fist bumping me on a daily basis. Yeah.
I'm dying. So for me, on the other hand,
proceed with caution.
it's tough because you know me. I look at things as like 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And it makes me sad to think about you being 12 years older because when I'm 60, you're going to be 72.
That's another check on the math box there.
But like thinking of that is scary. And I think it's one of those feelings of like, it sucks because I wish I had more time versus us meeting when we did. Granted, we met when we did for a reason.
Yeah.
And I love that. But it's also one of those things where it's like, like a lot of time was missed out on.
It was, but again, I think you've got to be grounded in your faith and everything happens for a reason. And,
yes.
Here we are. And I would say you're 27, calendar years, but you're definitely more mature than most 27-year-olds.
Well, I think that's just because, unfortunately, all the trauma.
Well, but you've grown from it and you've handled it better than anybody that I think could possibly have handled anything like what you've been handed.
Well, I mean, same goes for you. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We've both been dealt like impossible cards. Very impossible cards. And I think obviously we started dating, and we're not going to, I'm going to preface this too, because a lot of people are going to have questions. We are not going to speak on anything really other than us. Like, we're not speaking on divorce. We're not speaking on anything else. Because there are kids involved, and it's just about having mutual respect all around.
Yeah.
So, but with your divorce, like, obviously you're going through a divorce. That's as much as we'll say. But I need to make something very clear, because there's all these pages out here and there's comments. Did I have anything to do with your divorce?
Not one thing.
And when did you file for divorce?
I filed April 5th, 2023.
Okay. And we met August 18th of 2023.
Yeah.
So we met
Probably
definitely
6 months after.
Yeah. And your divorce wasn't just like a instant decision. It was stuff that had built up over a long period of time.
Yeah, it just got to where it wasn't.
Yeah. So it wasn't like I feel like the grieving process had already started long before.
Yeah.
And so when we met, because people had questions of, oh my God, why would you date someone who is still married? And don't you think that's messy? Don't you? People have wanted, some of the comments to you were like, well, you're not divorced yet. What's your response to that?
Yeah. I mean, it's, I would say that it's just a timely process, and you have to, the day that I think anybody officially files for divorce, that's the day that both parties are saying we're going our separate ways.
Yeah.
And as bad as it may hurt, or as bad as it may feel, you have to continue to try to move forward with your life.
Yeah.
And, I was just at a position where I was ready to move forward. And,
you had told me that you had made a commitment to yourself. Like, I'm not dating until my divorce is final.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you sit down with the lawyers, and they tell you this is going to be a,
multi-year
2-year
process.
plus process. And you're like, what do you mean? I just want it to be over and done with. And there's just a process. The legal system, has a process that, has to be gone through. And it just is, I know people that have gone through a 5 and 6 and 7 year divorce,
Which is
and
absolutely
it's
insane.
hard to think about that, but that happens. And those are real people and real situations.
And during that time, I think one of the biggest things is like that I've realized is, yes, someone's going through a divorce, but you have to find like hope, light, and love on the other side of it. And so when you're going through it, you don't want to go through it alone.
Yeah.
By any means. Just like when I'm going through the stuff I go through, I don't want to go through it alone. So there was a time to where we were able to be there for each other. I mean, we're still there for each other.
For sure.
But we were a good distraction from our situations.
Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
I think that if you go through any struggles in life, which life has a ton of challenges, even if everything looks normal, there's challenges. But there's really kind of 3, I think, key principles to help get you through any situation that you're dealt. And that's, faith, family, and friends. Mm-hmm. And those 3 things are kind of like the pillars of how to get through and not only just survive, but, turn a bad situation into a great situation and get back to thriving. You've got to be grounded in your faith. Number one, God's in control. He has a plan. Even if you don't understand it, you have to have faith and be grounded that he's got a plan and he's working.
Yeah.
Your family, that's, I can't say enough great things about my immediate family. And then your friends really kind of turn into your family, the people that you can count on and that are in your circle, which is, it's not a lot.
No.
So that's why I kind of loop kind of friends and family in kind of one category, because there's probably, on one hand, you can count on the amount of people that would be there for you if you really needed them.
Yeah.
Then you just keep getting up, and you got people counting on you, and you got to keep stepping forward and get through it.
And I also think too, it's with what you said, we have very similar, like with how our people have shown up for us has been very similar.
Yeah. Between
friends, I mean, I'm not going to say my family because they have not, but I have not had a family member step up for me other than Grayson, really. And Nanny Faye helps me physically, but I have not had anyone in my family to help me emotionally through anything. And so that we don't have in common, because your mom's been a freaking rock star.
Yeah, she's a saint.
Absolute saint. And other than at the beginning, but that's a different story.
You had a little bit of Mama Bear come out being super protective, like, what is going on? But I kept telling you, like, hey, just give it some time.
Yeah, which we did. I love her to death. We're great. I'll see her in right after Christmas?
Couple weeks.
Yeah, a couple weeks. But the way that both of our friend groups have stepped up and shown up, I think is a true testament to just the type of people we keep around us. That, like, people who can show up for our kids, like, without us having to even ask.
Well, it brings a whole new meaning to this saying that you always hear, which is it takes a village.
Yeah.
And
because you have, and when we say that, so one thing we didn't mention, obviously kids are involved, but Robert's got 3. So 12, 11, and 5.
Yep.
All boys.
That's correct.
Which means they are nonstop.
That's correct.
Yeah. So it takes a village to raise these kids, and being single parents is really, really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have to have help, and you have to have support. Even, if you have a joined home, it's still a challenge when you start talking about, running them here, running them there. I mean, with your situation.
Yeah.
And,
but I think too, when you touch on the single solo parenting, it's really tough because you have to do it alone. Like, you have to be mom, you have to be dad, you have to be caregiver, you have to provide, you still have to work, and then you're also somewhere in that picture.
Right. Which
it's very easy to forget about yourself when you are that single solo parent. And do you think how have you dealt with that, being that single solo parent?
It's one of those things where you have to constantly ask yourself, are my kids in the best position possible? And if the answer to that is yes, then you can do other things. If the answer to that is no, then you have to stop what you're doing and you have to realign, because they're solely dependent on you.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it starts. And I had some great advice from, people that have reached out and that I've got a great relationship with, and that have been, going through what I'm going through in some form or fashion. And that was the advice that was given, is there was constant moments throughout the day where they would stop and say, are my kids taken care of in the best possible way? And if the answer to that is yes, then get back to work.
Yeah.
And if the answer to that's no, just adjust what you can and keep going. And, we've got I've got 3 incredible boys. They are full speed.
They're awesome.
Well,
I told this story on one of the past podcasts about what happened at Thanksgiving with Grayson, Shiver, and the Oreo.
What, taking them out to the tent?
That I needed for my recipe.
Yeah.
And then
and
That
then
was hilarious.
denied it. I mean, it was like a family size pack of Oreos, and then we go to make like a cheesecake or something
At like
that,
11:30 at night.
and they're gone.
Yeah.
And Grayson's
I
like,
love them.
no, I didn't take the family size thing of Oreos that was on the kitchen table, and
Landon goes, "What are you talking about?" Yes, you did.
they're in the tent, you know.
No, the boys are awesome. And that's one thing you and I have made no bones about from the very beginning is that, yes, I enjoyed spending time with you and I want to spend more time with you, but our kids come first.
Yeah. We made that clear, I think, from the beginning.
That was clear from the very beginning that it's about their emotional well-being, what they need, how we can show up for them. And because we did that, there wasn't this, oh, let's go here a weekend, there a weekend. Like, we're parenting 24/7.
Yeah.
So that's why I've seen some stuff out there of, oh, you shouldn't introduce them to your kids so quickly. And people don't take into consideration, it's easy to date when you have a normal divorce and the kids are split 50-50. Because if that would have been the case, I wouldn't have met the boys for probably a year.
Maybe. I mean,
Like, because I would have seen you when they were with their mom. You know, like we would have made sure our weekends aligned to where like, all right, you don't have the kids this weekend? Let's like, would love to see you.
Yeah.
But we didn't have that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, you know, that's a big step in any relationship is bringing somebody new, you know, in front of the people that you're, you know, 100% dependent on you and that you love more than anything in the world. And, you know, I think you just have to make a judgment call. And, you know, if you see, you know, a future with somebody, then it makes sense to introduce them because it's important to me, you know, that your kids,
They have to love the person you're with.
well, they see you happy, number one, you know, and that they, you know, can make sense of it. And, you know, it's been a lot of fun with those kids. I mean, they keep it interesting.
Because some of the questions were, how did you introduce the boys to me? And the way I speak more about his in the introduction is because mine are totally different.
Well, that's because you had all these.
Mine are siblings. That's the thing. It's like we have a weird, like I have to parent them to make sure that they turn out to be decent, kind human beings and that no structure. But at the same time, we're still siblings. So it's not like, hey, you're going to meet so-and-so.
Right.
Like it's a totally different dynamic. So how did you introduce the boys to me?
Well, the first thing is that, you know, my kids are, you know, kind of my whole world. And so if it would have been like a giant red flag, you know, that would have probably been it whenever we met or whenever you met them. But it wasn't. And, you know, initially I just introduced you as this is just a friend. And I think you had Grayson and Chloe with you.
No, remember we introduced them as one of your friends' friends.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right.
We did.
Yeah, that's right. And,
We did.
Yeah, so then things just kind of progressed. And then naturally it, you know, kind of led to telling them more information. And,
Well,
you know,
and too, they're very, very smart.
Yeah.
Like, especially to the oldest two, pay attention to a lot. They may not say a lot. And then the LA trip happened.
Yeah.
And we were coming down the escalator. And we were coming down the escalator and I immediately see the TMZ guy.
Right.
And I said, you go left, I go right. And
Yeah,
you're
I have
like,
no clue what you're talking about, by the way. I'm like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
And you're like, go left, go left, go left. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And so I'm like this confused individual. And then it's like we split.
Yeah.
And then literally they followed you all the way out to the parking lot. And I think you had a driver. And
I did.
I laid down in the floor of the Suburban which is a really tough task
Yes,
for me.
I mean,
Like,
it's 6'4" and
yeah, about 225.
yeah, 6'4", 225, laying in that little middle
floorboard in between
the two captain seats,
Yeah.
like in the floor. Don't know how you fit, but you did. But they still got photos of us coming off the escalator.
Yeah.
And then I did an infamous podcast.
That was that same week, or no, that was the next week.
No, it was the same.
No, because I left early because I
You
had
left
to get
after
back.
you left after your work stuff. I had to stay longer.
Yeah.
And I did that podcast, and I had,
Slipped
had a few
up.
glasses of champagne before I did the podcast, and I slipped up, and they caught me in it. And then that's how it came out that Robert and I were dating. And then the articles started coming out, and all the things happened. So then the boys definitely knew, by then.
Any type of information, I want the boys to hear it from me instead
Yeah.
of somebody else. So I always have been upfront with them and telling them, hey, here's what's going on, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they were fine. They were fine. And then I guess Thanksgiving was really when we had our first time of all of us together, all 5 kids. We had 17-year-old, 2 11-year-olds, 10-year-old, and 4 at the time, maybe, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember thinking, what in the hell have I got myself into?
I remember it too.
5 kids. This was also really tough because it was first Thanksgiving without mom and dad. Everything was so tough. And so I was struggling mentally with that. And I was so nervous going into the trip of oh my God, what's going to happen? X, Y, and Z. And this is when Brittany and Jason Aldean gave us their place to stay at in Turks, which the kindest, most generous human beings in the world. They knew it had been a tough year for everyone and wasn't sure what we were going to do for Thanksgiving. And then I was at a party with Brittany, a pajama launch party, and she was like, I know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
And they gave us their home to stay at. And when we got there, it was so the kids, number one, get along perfect.
Yeah.
Chloe and the boys get along great, which is amazing. And they love Grace and Chrisley.
Oh, he's Superman to them.
Oh, yeah. Literally. And so that trip was awesome.
Yeah. But there was day 2.
Day 1 was rough.
Day 1 was travel day. Day 2 and day 3, I remember there was a point where it was listen, we're going to go get our own place.
Yeah.
This is too much. And,
that's because we had a miscommunication, I think, in what was it?
I don't remember.
It was a miscommunication over, I want to say, maybe Chloe and one of the boys had some words or something, and we're obviously taking our kids' sides, and we're still very new to this. This is our first time combining families, all these things. And then I was just this is just too much. We'll just go get our own place, And
then literally that night, everything settled down. And then the rest of the time was awesome.
Yeah, it settled down because I think, number one, I had to just have my breaking moment of dealing with so many other emotions.
Yeah.
And it's also tough coming into a situation, I will say, as a woman. Number one, I am only 27. You're almost 40. So
Hold on.
you're almost 40. I'm 27. You've been married before. You've had kids before. People don't really talk about, and I think, and it's not any jab to you because that's
a disclaimer right before a jab's thrown.
No, it's not a jab to you at all because it's hard for anyone to put themselves in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to be in a relationship with someone who has been married and has kids when I haven't done those things. And so when I look at your life, I'm so where do I fit in here? What about all the first moments that I want to have that you've already had?
Right.
And I don't think you really give me enough grace or understanding for that, or because I don't know. It's hard to put into words.
Well, and I'm probably not the most emotionally intelligent person when it comes to things, so.
But I wouldn't say that, because you're extremely intelligent. I just think that I'm just trying to find the best way to say it. I would say for a length of time, you were in a position or in a place to where you weren't allowed to be truthfully vulnerable. Would I be correct on that?
Yeah, probably so.
So you weren't allowed to feel what you felt and express how you felt.
Yeah, I think that, with my kind of background with sports and really, football, you're just always taught that when you get knocked down, you get back up and step forward.
Yeah.
So I'll never forget when I was a walk-on at Auburn, we had this running back. His name was Carnell Cadillac Williams. He probably will never remember this, but it's one of those like moments that when I look back on things that kind of made an impact, like little things along the way that you can add up. At Auburn, at the athletic complex, you had the locker room was down on the bottom floor. And on the second floor was the meeting rooms, and on the third floor was the coach's office. And there was this spiral staircase that led you up to one. And Cadillac is walking / running in front of me. And his nickname is Cadillac because of how smooth he runs. He ended up being like number 3 or 4 draft pick in the NFL.
Okay.
And he literally has got his socks and sandals on and pants. We're going into team meetings before practice. And he absolutely trips and eats it running up these stairs. And I'm like, dang, Lack. I said, you're supposed to be like the smoothest runner in the world, and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and he said, it happens to the best of us. And it's one of those things that I'll just probably remember forever, because I just go back to, regardless of who you think you are, where you're at in life, or where you want to be, like on the road to whatever your goals are, you're going to trip and fall, and you're going to have stumbles, and you're going to have some scrapes and some bruises. And so I think from my standpoint, when all these things happen in life, I look at it as this is God's way of testing you. And it's not as much as, how bad you get knocked down. It's, how quick do you get back up and take a step forward? So for me, like toning all of that stuff out, it's because I'm more focused on trying to look forward at where I want to go, where I want to be, and things like that. And maybe that's wrong, because
I wouldn't say that's wrong. That is a great survival technique.
And maybe you never deal with real stuff, real issues that have happened in the past, but that's just the way that I have always been.
That's really been because we really haven't had issues.
No.
But our biggest issue is that.
Yeah.
Is the lack of, because you guys know, if you listen to this podcast, I speak about therapy all the time. I have been doing therapy since I was, I don't know, for the past 7 years, probably. And I've done some very intensive therapy, and I've worked through a lot of really severe trauma in my life that I've never been open about. And then some things I have been open about. And you have not. You've never really done therapy.
Yeah, I just kind of go to like next play.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
But do you really think by doing that, you actually feel the feelings, come to terms with the feelings, and then move forward from the feelings?
I don't know how to answer that, because like I said, I just kind of go with next play. It's a test. How are you going to respond? and kind of my
But how do you, because I'm really trying to understand, how do you emotionally grow from that? Like, how do you then, because if you don't feel the feelings, you can't understand the feelings. And if you can't understand the feelings, then you don't know what needs to be changed going forward, either within yourself or with what you need from someone else.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that. It's something that obviously I've got to continue to try to work on to tap into that stuff. But
because I think for you and I, we have never, in our relationship, we don't make past relationships the identity of our relationship.
No.
At all. But we do discuss past relationships. What we got, what we didn't get, what we need, that's the only way to really get to know someone, is to know like the deepest hurts and what you do and do not need.
Yeah, I think it's about just being open and honest, and
so with therapy, is you and I've gone back and forth on this of, number one, is that something that you want to do?
I think that it's something that you can benefit from. I think that you have probably a lot of, whether it's pride that gets in the way from it. I think that there's this, connotation out there that...
But you do have 3 boys that are looking at you.
For sure.
Who are going to therapy.
Yep.
And you have to... It's such a hard thing because you grew up in South Georgia. Like super South Georgia. He's 40 years old. As a man...
40.
You're almost. As a man, you just push forward.
Yeah.
Is what you're taught. But there's something so powerful about being a vulnerable man and showing your children that it's okay to be vulnerable and it's okay to not be okay. Do you not agree with that?
No, I do agree with it. I think it to me, it's not as much about the not being okay as how to step forward. And I think where, therapy can come into play is it can help you maybe step forward faster. Maybe it can help you with handling a future situation because of the coaching that you've had done along the ways when stuff triggers you or whatever the case may be. But, I'm not anti-therapy. I just think it has this negative view for most people where it's like
but I don't though.
But see, that's probably the different generation coming.
That's what I'm saying. It's the different generation, and it's also where you're from too. Like I'm in a big city. It's my generation, I say, has done a lot of really questionable things. But one of the things I am so proud that my generation has done is we've normalized therapy. We've normalized that it's okay to not be okay. And your generation has not.
Yeah, we're hard-headed when it comes to some of this stuff.
So we've talked about, though, going to couples therapy. And
we should, because I don't see where something like that hurts the relationship.
Well, when I
way,
approached
shape, or
you
form.
about that, it was over Thanksgiving. And we were driving to your mom's house. And I said, over the past few months, I've spoken about therapy multiple times. And like, that's something that I need from you. That's a non-negotiable at this point, where we're at in our relationship. And I want to do couples therapy before we have to do couples therapy.
No, 100%.
So that's really where I was at with it. And you were very open to it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So get ready.
Okay.
Get ready. Obviously, like I said, our relationship didn't start out like a normal relationship. We didn't get to do the dating. Like, we just had one thing after the other that has just popped up that it's like, dear heavens, can we not catch a break? And one of those things being when Nick died. And can you tell from your perspective how
all that went down?
Yeah.
Yes.
And your thought process, and was it hard for you were the posts that I was posting hard for you? Like, walk through all these things.
Yeah. So, I think obviously, you've been with people before in a relationship, and so have I. And you were engaged to Nick. Obviously, you guys were like super close. Called the engagement off, and then still dated on and off for several years after that. And I think Nick and your father were best friends, from what I was told.
Yeah.
And go to lunch every day, and all that stuff. So obviously he was a part of the family, whether you guys ever got married or not, right? So like you kind of have to set the stage with like, this is, in your family's eyes, a lot like a brother.
Yeah.
And whether they agreed with, y'all being together or not, they still loved and cared about him. Right. And so I'll never forget, you were flying to go see your dad, and you don't typically wake up early. That's kind of a normal thing. You're going to be in for a rude awakening here in a couple weeks when Grayson goes to Bama, and you've got to get up at 6:30 and take Chloe to school every morning.
Yeah.
That'll be new for you. But you had woken up early because you will wake up early for others. And you woke up early to go see your dad. And I
3,
texted you, first thing when I woke up, probably like 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, hey, are you, like, good morning. How's the flight or something like that. And I just remember you sent something back that was like, not good. And you were like, Nick died. And I was like, are you okay? And you're like, no. And you were in such a state of panic, like when we finally did talk, when you landed, and you didn't know what to do. Again, this was what, in October?
September.
So this is weeks after, not even really a month and a half. And, I'm just the type of person that it's like, you want to be there for the people that you care about in whatever fashion that is. I didn't really know what you needed, right? Like, I don't know you all that well.
Dated a month. Yeah.
And so I'll never forget, I think I called Alexa and I'm like, hey, what do I need to do? I think I called Tyler. I don't think I had Aaron's number saved yet because Tyler sent it to me with a unique identifier. And so, but then I just wanted to be there. And you, I will never forget, you said, I'm still going to go see Dad because I want him to hear it from me. And I'm sure y'all had a really tough emotional visit, and leaving him was probably the toughest thing. And all I could think about was like, what can I do? So went and we got you back to Nashville, and I was up there with you that afternoon or that evening. And, from my standpoint, it's a tragedy. Like, a young life has been taken in a terrible accident. I don't care who you are. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a friend, if it's a fiance, if it's a, brother, sister, like, this person's hurting. What can you do to help them? And, then I was just trying to be there. And it's like, I can keep my 100 feet of distance. I can be by your side, like whatever you need, like just let me know, because I want to be there for you. And obviously I had to, get back home to be there for my kids that night and the next day and all that stuff. But, I remember you and Pamela and Michaela, and we went by and bought flowers, and you wanted to go to the, site of the accident. And I just remember all y'all, just the three of y'all or four of y'all with Tyler too, because I was talking to Tyler's dad, and y'all were just all just walking around, where it all happened. And I'm just watching you guys. And, you don't know the individual, but you know that obviously he meant something to everybody that's here.
Yeah.
And it's just about, again, if you go back to kind of faith, family, and friends, like, you want to be there for those three categories as much as possible.
Yeah, I think too, when I was sitting on the sidewalk with them, and the police had cleaned up as much as possible. And there was a spot on the ground, and I went over, and I just remember like literally laying on the ground and like kissing the spot on the ground. And I was crying. I was trying to make sense of it. I had obviously had regrets of my own. And then you would come up to me and you were like very cautious. You were just like, you asked like, is it okay if I'm here? And I was like, yeah. And then when we went to leave, because the accident happened between two churches, you looked at me and said, do you mind if I say a prayer for Nick and his family?
Yeah. Like I said, like a life was lost in a terrible situation. Yeah. You know?
But I think it was in that moment that I was like, wow. Like, regardless if we worked out or not, like, what an insane human being you were. But I looked at that moment and I was like, it was so weird for me because I was like, I'm here with Nick in a way.
Yeah.
But you're showing up in everything that I wanted and someone I wanted to end up with. And when you responded that way, I was just so, like, I was filled with so much gratitude and emotion, and like I couldn't have asked for anyone to show up better.
Well, I appreciate that. Again, that's just trying to do the right thing. And
well, I think too, in the ways that you've shown up, you know, we had the Nick thing, and then what we haven't really talked about is Chloe and Grayson.
Yeah.
And how you've shown up there. Now, Chloe's
tough to crack.
Yeah.
Chloe's tough to crack.
Chloe's tough to crack. When y'all are by yourselves.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love Chloe. Like, we get along great, but she's just still very, like, what's going on type deal.
Well, and Chloe was really close with Nick.
Yeah.
And Chloe never processed Nick's death.
Well, you figure Chloe's 12 now, right? Yeah. And so when she was 11 and this happened, all she had known from the time she was 5 was probably Nick. Yeah. So it only is, again, like, makes sense that she's, you know, a little bit harder to break through, where Grayson has seen you date a bunch of people.
Yeah.
You know, so he's kind of like used to it. He's used, like he said earlier, like, we're not used to this 1.5 year long deal. You know?
That is very true. So. But you and Grayson, can you explain that relationship?
I don't know where to start with that kid. You know, for starters, he has got an incredible head on his shoulders. Like, he means the world to me. I look at him, you know, like a brother just about. And I'm just happy to be able to be in his life and to be able to provide like some sort of guidance.
From a male perspective.
Yeah. Cause he'll always bounce ideas off of me and we talk a bunch.
Y'all talk some days, I feel like, more than you and I talk.
There probably are some days when that happens. We get busy, you know, or you get really busy or I'm really busy and he ends up calling me before you do or vice versa. But the only negative thing about Grayson is he's going to Alabama. That's like, that really hurts. Like, that really hurts. I think he's making a mistake, but like I said, we all we all make mistakes.
No, I think the way that you have shown up for Grayson, Dad has said, I will never be able to repay him for that.
No. It's not about repaying me for anything. You know, it's about being there for a young kid that, you know, wants that. See, the thing is it's easy to show up for people when they want you to be there. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, you can talk to somebody, because in my career, when you're trying to lead people and help them make changes, and if you just do a couple of these simple things, like, you can get on the right track. You can talk to somebody until you're blue in the face. If they're not willing to listen and be coachable and be open to change, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
And, with Grayson, I think the thing that's the most encouraging about him is you can not only see it, but you can feel it. Like he wants to be a great person. And even though we still fall short, whether it's getting a speeding ticket or, going through a tough breakup with whatever Snapchat girl has reached out to him.
Whichever one of the
That's
day.
the only reason why he's going to Alabama, by the way. All you Alabama girls on Snapchat, like, leave the kid alone. Let him make up his own mind. It's ridiculous. You don't hear about all these Auburn girls Snapchatting him.
Oh, whatever.
But he wants to do good. He wants to be good. He wants to accomplish things in life. And when you have that as like a basis to work off of, you can help a lot more. You can impact a lot more by leading them, coaching them, and just listening to them. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I'll say 2 words and he just wants to talk to me about whatever it is that you did to him, or something like that. He's like, have you talked to Savannah? I'm like, not yet. He's like, let me just tell you.
Let me just tell you.
I'm like, oh Lord, well, tell me when that calms down. I'll text her in about an hour.
Yeah, no, y'all, they tag team it a lot. Y'all get y'all's little stories together and, well, Robert, you just say this and then I'll say this and then, she may let me do it if you say it.
Sometimes.
Look at that. Exactly.
But you have to let go a little bit. That's something you're about to really,
I will be telling you
have
that.
a hard time.
I will be telling you that in about 6 years.
Okay. Well, you're about to have a hard time in about 3 weeks. Because when you leave baby brother at the University of Alabama, knowing that, first of all, he should be at Auburn, but when you leave him there, you are going to be a wreck.
I'm just going to pray for you.
That I will accept all the prayers from everybody.
Yeah. And so obviously Dad said he would never be able to repay you for showing up the way that you have. Have you met Mom and Dad?
I have met your mother one time. Incredible human being. Me and Julie, we get along great.
Tell everyone how that was. And 2, was that, because I have to say, for me, like, you're not seeing the best version of my mother.
Right.
So that was really difficult for me. You're going to visit her in a prison, and dear God, I don't think you've ever thought, oh, I'm going to go see my girlfriend's mom in prison. Like, meet her for the first time. Like, not the image anyone had ever imagined. What was going through your mind?
I was just open. I don't like to, as we both know, right? But like, it's so easy to talk tough behind a keyboard, and it's so easy to read comments. And that's why I just stay away from all of that stuff, because all you're going to do is go down a rabbit hole that is, the majority of people want to attack you. They don't want to praise you. The people that know you, that's all that you really have to rest on. And so I know you, like, before I met her. I knew Grayson. I knew Chloe. And so for me, knowing you and your crew, right? Like, I'm going into this open. Like, this is somebody that you love. This is, somebody that everybody in the car loves. And so, I went in with an open mind, and it didn't disappoint, and had a great time with her. I think she laughed a ton.
Because you were my mother.
Yeah.
And like, I am my father. So that's why you two get along so well.
Yeah, she has said that. She has said that for sure.
Without a doubt.
Todd Chrisley made over here.
And Dad, you have not met.
No.
And Dad has not been as open as Mom has been.
No, and I think that's probably rightfully so, right? Like,
yeah,
it's his daughter, who's this guy? He's got all this baggage, and Todd has a tendency to be vocal on certain situations and issues. I don't know if there's many situations where nobody knows how he feels, because they always know how he feels.
Exactly. But that's definitely changed.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think so.
he just never, I don't think anyone ever looks at life and they're like, oh, I want my kid to marry someone that's 12 years older, that's been divorced, that has kids. Like, that's not what you would want for your daughter.
That's not what you would draw up.
No,
Right.
That's not what you would draw up for your child. So I think that's where he comes from. Yeah, so you haven't met Dad yet? Mm-mm. You think this year's the year?
It might be.
You think this year's the year?
Fingers crossed.